Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today is another special one because we have another guest on the channel and it is a top FPL manager. We have FPL Heisenberg, aka Wes. He has 7 times a top 0.5% finish. His best finish in FPL is inside the top 1k, so he's a serious FPL manager. And today he's going to take us through his latest draft and answer some of your key questions as well. Welcome to the channel, Wes.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. And straight off the bat, I want to say hello to Stormzy if he's watching. He should be, so hello, mate.
Yeah, so basically Stormzy's best friend now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got Wes on the channel. It's going to be a good one. Like I said, a top manager. We're not going to waste your time. Let's jump into the draft. So guys, a few caveats for today. We are recording this before the Community Shield and it will go live on my channel before the Community Shield, but you may well be watching it after. So do take that into account when we talk about City and Arsenal assets. And also, we still don't have a definitive update on Nkunku. It does look like Jesus will miss game week 1, but we don't know for certain if Nkunku will miss game week 1. So as you can see, Nkunku is in the draft, but we'll discuss what might happen if he's not available for game week 1. If you do want to see Wes's final team before game week 1, you can see that over on Fantasy Football Hub, and I'll also link in the description down below Wes's Twitter account. Go follow him over there as well, and you can keep up to date with what he's doing ahead of game week 1. So we're not going to go through every single player today because there are some picks that a lot of people have, the likes of Estepinian, Saka, Haaland. We don't need to discuss them. But what I love about this draft is it is actually quite different, and we've seen a lot of the same thing over and over again. So there are a few different things that I want to look at today, Wes, and I'm just going to go through each of those players. The first one is Pickford. Now, I started pre-season with Pickford. A lot of people did, and then they've slowly moved away to the likes of Flecken, Onana, Johnston. You've still got Pickford in goal. Do you think you'll be starting game week 1 with him? And if so, what is it that you like about Pickford?
I think I will. The thing I like about Pickford is the Sean Dyche factor. Now he's actually got, obviously, a pre-season under his belt. And also toward everyone, there's builders next door, so you might hear some noise throughout on my part. Sorry about that. Try and stick with us. Yeah, with Pickford, the fixtures are pretty good in the opening 5 or 6. I know there's Arsenal in game week 5, but apart from that, it's pretty decent. Like I said, it's kind of a bit of a punt or a gamble on the fact of, I don't normally like doing things like this, but like backing Sean Dyche because of what we know about him, backing him to get those clean sheets back on board for Everton. I'm hoping for a lot of home 1-0 sort of thing. Maybe a lot of save points. I remember Pope back in the day for Burnley would get save points because of the sort of, I think it was mainly due to the low block and, you know, people were taking shots against Burnley from low XG positions or whatever. And Pope was making plenty of saves. I'm hoping for that. But like I said, I'm not overly convinced on any of the keepers this year in the 4.5 bracket. I feel like we normally have a few better options. I have also considered Johnston, and I might still go there. I have obviously got Palace player in, but looking at their fixtures, I don't think they're maybe as likely for clean sheets as, you know, if you take the opening 3, I'm happy to have Eze, but Sheffield United, an away fixture, and then it's Arsenal at home, again, obviously a top team, Brentford away. So I feel like they're the 2 4.5 keepers I prefer. Flecken, I'm not sure on, so that's basically why I'm on Pickford, but he's a position where I could be talked out of it for sure.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I still don't mind him. I think the fixtures are definitely there. It's just whether, like you say, whether Sean Dyche will be able to tighten them up, because last season they did improve slightly when he came in, but they still weren't anything close to what we saw the likes of Burnley as in previous seasons. But I certainly don't mind it, and I think there's definitely value in going for a 4.5 instead of the very popular sort of Onana at the moment. Moving on to the defence, I think there's one big thing here that I would like to discuss. I think Chilwell and Estepinian make a lot of sense. It's Trent, and it seems crazy for me to bring that up as a talking point because Trent has been season upon season, even last season when he wasn't at his best, still a consistent asset. But at 8 million and with so many good midfielders and attackers, it feels like a lot of money to invest, especially when, again, in pre-season, they continue to look pretty vulnerable. What are your views on Trent? Are you starting to have cold feet, or are you pretty confident you'll go into the season with him?
Yeah, no, absolutely cold feet now. I had him, he's kind of like a legacy pick from the very first draft I did when the game launched, and that's mainly based on how well Trent did towards the end of last season, moving into midfield and things like that. And I kind of just hoped that the Liverpool clean sheets would be semi-decent and then to go along with his attacking returns as well. But yeah, I'm getting really worried about Liverpool's lack of signings. They've lost obviously Fabinho and Henderson. Maybe people will say they're not that big players for Liverpool, but they are from a sort of central midfield point of view and keeping clean sheets. I know they weren't necessarily both regulars anymore, but I think they're both big losses. McAllister might be injured now, I think, as well. Who are they going to play defensive mid? I don't know. Is Trent going to go in there? Is that a necessarily more attacking role when you're defensive mid compared to sort of a free roaming right back like he used to be? Again, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are question marks now. If it was, if Game Week 1 would have started the week after Game Week 38 last season, then Trent will be in, if that makes sense. But because of certain factors now, like you said, he is 8 million, whereas normally he comes in at what, sort of 7.5. It is a lot, and I am starting to get cold feet on Trent because of, like I said, because of preseason, like the points you just made basically, and it is a lot of money. So yeah, I think if I'm rejigging my team and I decide that I really want to change, say, a Foden to a Rashford or something like that, then that's where I'll probably get the money from. It will be Trent down to the likes of, not even too sure yet, but there's enough decent options, isn't there, in defence that I could downgrade and get maybe similar results. I want to be more sure of Trent's role in the team and Liverpool's. I want to be a bit more certain of their clean sheets, because I remember the start of the sort of first half of last season, wasn't it? They were shocking for clean sheets. So when someone's 8 million, you can say, yes, he'll score some goals and get plenty of assists, which is possibly true. But for 8 million, you do need a fair chunk of clean sheets, in my opinion. So bit unsure. What are your thoughts on Trent in general?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same on Trent. I think once you build a draft without Trent, it's difficult to go back, because you realise it sounds like very minimal, but 3 million going for a 5 mil instead on someone that I think could probably match Trent at least over the opening 6 to 10 game weeks. That 3 million goes such a long way. As you say, you can get like Foden to Rashford, plus you can go Eze up to like a Martinelli if you don't have him, or you could. It's just that the 3 million is such a lot with your starting budget. Yeah, I struggle to justify it. And I guess on Trent, let's say you don't go into Game Week 1 with Trent. 2 defences that you've just not covered at all, which pretty much everyone else has, is the Manchester United and the Arsenal defence. If you were to drop Trent at the moment, obviously still just under a week out until the Game Week 1 deadline, are you more likely to try and cover Arsenal with like a Gabriel? Or do you think you're more likely to try and cover Manchester United with like a Luke Shaw?
I think it would be Gabriel. I know United were very good for clean sheets last season, and I guess potentially they should be even better with Onana in, and with Ten Hag having a full pre-season. So I get the Man United. It's not a case of me saying, I don't want any Man United players. It's just, I happen to build a squad that I'm happy with. Well, relatively happy with. There'll definitely be some tweaks. But yeah, I think, and again, like I said, this team's almost in between teams, because I did have Gabriel Jesus in Kuku's position. He got injured. Then I thought, okay, let's put Kuku in. And then I haven't actually got my third Arsenal player back in yet.
Yeah.
So should I do that? I think it will be Trent to Gabriel, save that 3 million, and then possibly just reinvest 2.5 of it. Obviously, we all know the benefits of saving 0.5 at the start of the season, if possible. I won't be making my team weaker to do so, but if I'm happy with a team that costs 99.5, I'll keep 0.5 back, and then should Eze get injured week 1 and another 6.5 midfielder, bang, I won't be forced to move really early to catch price rises. I'll have that 0.5 in the bank to be able to switch to another 6.5 / 6.6 or whatever. So it does give that little bit of freedom, or maybe even an upgrade to someone here and there. So yeah, but I think it would be Gabriel. Again, I am, people are watching this thinking, why is he not going for Luke Shaw? I'm not saying don't go for Luke Shaw. I'm just saying I would probably go for Gabriel.
Yeah, I like that. And that's excellent advice, again, from a top manager that's been doing it for quite a few seasons now, is that money in the bank can be useful. We've got such a tendency to want to spend all of the budget that we have available to try and maximise our returns. But as Wes has said there, if someone rises in price, let's say you've got Eze and you think, well, if Eze doesn't work out, I'll just move to Mbeumo. It doesn't tend to work like that, because if Mbeumo scores in Game Week 1 or 2 and Eze does struggle, which is probably why you want to sell him, Eze could be down at 6.4 and Mbeumo's probably up at 6.6, 6.7. So having that 0.5 isn't necessarily to allow you to get someone more expensive. It's to allow you to get someone at the same price point that has unfortunately risen in price, especially if your player has fallen in price. So I agree with Wes there that if you can keep 0.5 in the bank, and pretty much all of my drafts recently have had money in the bank, nice. I think it can be incredibly useful. Also, with the midfield, Saka and Martinelli seem fairly obvious now. Jesus is probably going to be out. The two that I want to discuss, because they're not in a lot of drafts, but I love both picks for different reasons, is Eze and Foden. So starting with Eze, we're going to discuss the 6.5s in a bit more detail later, but just specifically on Eze, what is it that you like about him? Why is it that he's in your draft? Because a lot of other people have chosen the likes of Matoma and Mbeumo. What is it that you love about him?
I like those two picks as well. But with Eze, I think under Roy Hodgson, he was just phenomenal, wasn't he? and he played every single minute in the Premier League under Roy. I think it was, I haven't got the exact stats to hand, but I think it was game week 29 onwards, 10 games in a row. Eze started all of them and finished all of them, essentially got 90 minutes in all of them, which is good. Obviously, if there's going to be a lot more added time this season, stuff like that, you don't want players getting subbed off on the 60th minute, those sort of bit part players, whereas Eze doesn't seem to be that under Roy. And with Zaha going, I think is there rumours of Olise going maybe as well, so I think Eze is going to be even more burden on his shoulders to be that goal threat, to be that assist threat, to be that main man essentially, to be on penalties and stuff like that. So yeah, I just kind of want to go for it. You know, I really like watching him as well. Great player. I'm not here to talk anyone out of Mbomo or Mitoma and get Eze in. It's not a case of that. They're all good assets, and I haven't got a magic ball which guarantees Eze is going to outscore those two. But I like Eze, and that's why he's in my team.
Yeah, very nice. I would agree on all of that. And Eze, as I discussed with Andy on the video a couple of days ago, Eze is one player that we were both getting a little bit of FOMO around. He's a player that we would like, just because, as you say, plays every minute, and especially with the new rule coming in the Premier League, players that stay on the pitch till the end of the game are going to be even more valuable. The fact that he's on penalties too, we see a lot of last-minute penalties, so he's going to be on the pitch, getting extra minutes, possibility for more penalties, like you say, talismanic. I like him for so many different reasons. I just also like Mbomo. But again, we'll discuss the 6.5s in a little bit more detail later in the video. Phil Foden's one that has been in every single one of my drafts, apart from the last couple, just due to the amount of good midfielders there are. Do you think Foden's set for a really big season? Is it just those opening few you want him for? Or do you think there's a chance Foden does leave your team?
No, I do think he's set for a big season, and especially at the start of the season. Again, we don't really need to even consider the season as a whole, because we'll have wild cards and transfers. We have to consider the start of the season. I think he is primed to. And I just remembered that you had a very good start of last season in part because of Foden. I think I jumped on and then Pep decided to bin him off, which was very annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think his price is because of the disappointing second half of the season with the injuries and the rotation stuff like that. He's underpriced in my opinion because of that reason. You know, if he'd have carried on, if he carried on his form all season long like he had at the start of the season, he'd probably be coming in probably at 9 mil, and the same as sort of Rashford. So I think I kind of wanted him because I feel like he's underpriced. So good value for money there. Fixtures are decent enough. City, obviously, the best attacking team. The big points for me is Mahrez leaving, so there's potentially Foden's very versatile. He can play in the sort of De Bruyne attacking mid role. He can play in the Mahrez Bernardo Silva right wing role. He can even cover for Grealish on the left wing should Grealish pick up an injury or not have form or whatever. I guess he can play false nine, but that's probably unlikely these days with both Haaland and Alvarez now in the City squad. But yeah, he's just got a lot of flexibility to play along that front line, and we always think of City of having so many attacking assets and so much rotation problems and stuff like that. But I'd argue that other teams have now got stronger depth in their attacking positions than maybe City do, because they've sold Mahrez, they've sold Gundogan. Bernardo's, again, this was kind of... Bernardo Silva is still at the club, isn't he, of course, but there's rumours with him being linked to Ace. So if Bernardo Silva goes, that's an extra reason to get Foden, because Foden then becomes really nailed on. Yes, City will probably go out and sign players in those attacking positions, but in the early game weeks, those first 6 game weeks, it will make Foden really nailed on. And yeah, I don't think last season he was missing out on games because obviously Grealish was playing well on the left, Bernardo Silva was playing well on the right. He almost couldn't get back in because they were playing so well. But I don't think that'll be the case this year. And sorry, I'm rambling on a bit now, but De Bruyne obviously has... I don't know what's going on with his injury. He's kind of been on the bench for pre-season games but not played a minute, is that right? So I don't think he's quite ready. Again, we're going to have the Community Shield that we can see if what's going on with De Bruyne, but should De Bruyne not play many minutes there, you've got to think that he's not quite ready to start the season that much. So again, an extra route into the team for Foden. But yeah, I don't have rotation concerns with Foden in the first 4 or 5 weeks. Past that, maybe I will have rotation concerns, and past sort of week 5 or 6, free transfers, wild cards, etc. So yeah, I'm not worried about Foden's minutes like I usually am, which is why I usually tend to avoid him, if that makes sense.
Yep, no, that makes sense. Something else I just wanted to discuss. I mean, I'm a Manchester United fan. I'm looking at this team and there's absolutely no United assets. Now, I think you can probably justify not including them, especially in the defence with the fixtures that we've got and also a few new signings. The attack, we didn't score many goals last season, but I just wanted to know what your justification was for having no Rashford, Bruno and Arne Shaw, and if that you think that is something that could potentially change before game week 1?
It could definitely potentially change, and it isn't a case of going, right, I'm ignoring the United assets. Like I said, it just so happens that I've built a team that doesn't have them because I like other assets a bit more. And when money was tight, for example, if you look at my midfielders, I couldn't really, none of them, they're all cheaper than, apart from Saka, who's the same as Bruno, but they're all cheaper than Bruno and Rashford. And obviously Saka was kind of a shoo-in. So yeah, when money was tighter, I couldn't even get them in anyway. If I decide to go Trent or Gabriel, then I could look at them, but it's definitely not a case of ignoring them. I really had a good time owning Bruno at certain stages last season. I think Bruno's underpriced as well, by the way. He was in my very first draft. Yeah. And again, based on the thought of, I looked at that price point and thought, oh, that's a bit cheaper than he should have been, maybe. Especially, obviously with a striker in position, maybe more assists for, I don't want to butcher the pronunciation of Højlund. We know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, Bruno's got maybe more potential. Yeah. Sorry to really summarise and hammer on this point. I like Bruno, Rashford, Shaw, and Onana. They're the 4 United assets that I do like. I would happily have any of them in my team. I just don't happen to have them, and I don't want to look at my team and think, I haven't got a Man United player. I must change someone to a Man United player just to cover off the team. Because let's say I do that and I go, say, Foden to Rashford, and over the first 5 or 6 game weeks, yes, I'll have a Man United attacker in place, but will Rashford outscore Foden by enough to warrant the extra 1.5 million spent just by covering off an extra team? Because by covering off, say, a Rashford over a Foden, I lose out on whatever Foden gets. So, yeah. But yeah, to hammer it home, I'm not saying don't get United assets, and I might end up with one in my team come the start of the season.
Okay, makes sense. One more question about your starting 11, then we'll move on to the bench. Is you've got Ollie Watkins in there.
Yeah.
You sent me this draft actually a few days ago. I'm pretty sure you sent me it before the Jesus and Nkunku.
I did.
Or in and around that. Has Watkins been in your team before the Jesus and Nkunku injuries? And if so, what is it you like about him? Because I think other people are almost defaulting to him because of the injuries.
Yeah.
But I saw him in your team for a while. So what is it you like about Watkins?
It's been a bit of a frustrating one for me because like the things you said with the Nkunku injury, with the Gabriel Jesus injury, Watkins is now, I guess his ownership's going to shoot up, which is a little bit frustrating. Again, I don't pick anyone in my team to be differential, and I also don't pick to avoid the template or to follow the template. Whatever I pick is what I pick. If it ends up being template, fair enough. If it ends up being differential, fair enough. But with Watkins, a bit frustrated that now everyone's on it. He would have been a nice differential, and now everyone's been, it's no one's fault, but everyone's almost been shoehorned into that position. But yeah, I really like Watkins, and again, I think I've based a lot of my team based off end of season form or second half of season form in a way. Because if we look at Eze's season as a whole, maybe it wasn't great, but that last 10 weeks under Roy was. Same with Watkins. Under Gerrard, it wasn't great. Under Emery, it was pretty good for that sort of middle stage of the season anyway when I had him. And yeah, I like the way Watkins plays now under Emery. He's a lot more central. He doesn't win the channels as much. I'm not sure if he's going to be on penalties. I think he missed one in pre-season recently for Villa. I had a few penalty misses last season with Mitrovic, so I'd rather not have that pain. So he can happily go off them if he wants. But I just like Watkins. I don't love the fixtures that much. There's 3 away games in the first 4. 2 of them are away at Newcastle and Liverpool. I know he's got a decent enough record against bigger teams, I suppose. He tends to do well against them. I don't know if that will continue. I don't like to put too much weight on that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I don't fear those fixtures. I don't think that, there's no reason why Villa can't go to Newcastle and score a goal on what could be involved. Likewise with Burnley away or Liverpool away. So, and again, based on their away form last season under Emery, again, that was very good. How much weight we should put into that, I don't know. But, it's adding some sort of confirmation bias to my pick of Watkins anyway. But yeah, I've been on him for a long time now. Yeah,
and final thing just is, if Nkunku is out, which we don't really know at the time of me recording this, do you think you're likely to switch him to someone like a Jackson, or do you think you'll switch to a 3-5-2 and get an extra midfielder?
Yeah, I've been kind of keen to. I was on 3-5-2 when the game first launched, and then I changed my mind back to 3-4-3. I just feel like with my years' experience of playing FPL, it always feels like I sometimes build a 3-5-2, and then very quickly, for the large majority of as the season progresses, maybe I'll occasionally have a 4-4-2 or 3-5-2, but it just always seems to work out being 3-4-3 is the best way. Not the best way to play. you can play it however you want. But the way I prefer to play FPL, the way I tend to do better is with a 3-4-3. So I won't force a 3-4-3. If these forwards keep getting injured, I will obviously change tact. But as of right now, I think I will. And yeah, someone like Jackson could be decent for their fixtures and decent pre-season form. Someone like maybe Wissa, however you say it, with Ivan Toney being out. And again, that would free up some more money, so I wouldn't necessarily have to free money up out of Trent. So yeah, I do want to stay at 3-4-3. And Jackson would probably be the player to come in. This squad does already have 0.5 in the bank. That would even give me 1 mil in the bank to maybe make my bench defenders slightly stronger whilst also keeping 0.5 in the bank as well, if that should happen. But yeah, that we've all got to wait for the injury news on Nkunku, haven't we?
Well, I think it's a strong starting 11. And then the final question, very briefly before we move on to the questions that you guys have asked, is just around your two £4 million defenders. Yeah. If you do keep them, obviously you've got, you mentioned this to me, you've got a Luton and a Burnley defender. They both blank in game week 2, but that does mean that they will have an upcoming double potentially before your first wild card. Do you think that's a risk? Have you considered the likes of Baldock instead, or are you pretty set on those two?
Yeah, no, I do like Baldock. And again, I kind of put them in with not too much thought on my 4.0s at the minute. I want to have the sort of structure set up with, as you can see from my bench, they're very cheap, which is how I like it at the start of the season. And we've still got a long time to the game week 1 deadline, so should a better 4.0 emerge, once I've done a bit of research, Baldock could come in for the likes of Bayer or whatever. And like you said, that game week 2 thing is a bit of a concern because one of them blanking will be fine, but both blanking means that should something go wrong with, maybe Estupiñán picks up a little knock and he's just going to miss one game week, I don't really want to be transferring Estupiñán out or Trent or whatever. Whoever's my 3 defenders, I don't want to be wasting a transfer there if it's just a very short-term injury to my starting defenders, but I'll be almost forced to if I do start with both of those two because I don't want to be going into game week 2 with 10 men. So yeah, it is a bit concerning, which might make Baldock the better pick over one of them for that reason. It will just be frustrating, won't it, if these two do end up being the best 4.0s in terms of what they offer over the first 5 or 6 game weeks. I would like them both in place. But yeah, it does make it, when I first heard that Luton and Burnley was postponed in week 2, I almost disregarded it, didn't care too much. But yeah, I think I will switch one of them just to be safe. Which one, I'll have a little look into it. And yeah, I think Baldock, and again, someone in the comments can let us know if there's another 4.0 we should consider. But yeah, it would be these two or Baldock seem to be the best 4.0s. I remember Baldock for a few years ago in the Premier League as well, would been relatively attacking. So yeah.
All right, sounds good. So that is the team. As I said, subject to change, of course, up to the Game Week 1 deadline. Do check Wes's Twitter out and also check out on Fantasy Football Hub. Speaking of Fantasy Football Hub, this team has come in at a 92% rating, which is pretty decent considering the amount of sort of differential options in there. And it's predicted to get 61.6 predicted points. So not necessarily the strongest Game Week 1, but a pretty strong team rating over the first 5 or 6 game weeks. Are you happy with that, Wes?
Yeah, I am. And like I said, when applying the context of there is better ways to optimise the starting lineup based on the sort of predicted points and stuff like that, but I've chosen to go this way. But like I said, there will be some tweaks, and I'm happy with that rating. Yeah.
Awesome. All right then. Well, let's jump into your questions and discuss some things in more detail. So guys, moving on to this final section, we're going to take a look at 4 of your questions that you've asked us over on Twitter and discuss them in a little bit more detail to hopefully help you to build the best possible team for Game Week 1. So the first question, and we didn't really discuss this too much in Wes's team, is it risky going without any Liverpool? And if the answer is yes, or you want to consider some Liverpool assets, who are your favourite Liverpool assets outside of Salah and Trent? Because they feel fairly obvious. They're also very expensive. Do you like the likes of Gakpo, Jota, Darwin, Diaz, or are you just going to avoid altogether due to the headache?
Again, I'm personally avoiding because of the headache, but I do. All 4 of those you just mentioned do have amazing potential, don't they? We've seen what Jota can produce in not many minutes. I believe Darwin to be of the same sort of ilk where he might get, rested, rotated sometimes. It's not really too clear who will be the sort of main men to support Salah. So yeah, I think if you do start the season with them, if you see one of them get 65 minutes, don't just sub them out in Game Week 1. You've got to know the risks going into Game Week 1 of those sort of players and know that you if you do choose to go with them pre-season, then you're backing them to get returns in less minutes. They're not the sort of Harry Kane as other players who get 90 week in, week out. They are risk for that reason. If you want, security of starts, Trent and Salah is probably your best bet. But to answer the question, is it risky going without Liverpool? I think you can justify it. I think with FPL, especially over the last 5-6 years, under Klopp, we've had such amazing assets at Liverpool, haven't we? We've had Trent being like almost locked in for large portions of every season over the last 4 or 5 years, less so last season. Same with Salah as well, who maybe got tweaked out at certain stages last year, but even those two with seasons that weren't even their best seasons, they still, come the end of the season, they're right up there, aren't they, in terms of overall points. So, yeah, I don't think it is. A bit like with my team that we just saw, I've got no Man United. Is that risky? It is. But, I've kind of chosen 11 players who I think can score well as United assets. I'm fully expecting Liverpool assets to get points, of course. But yeah, you can go without it and justify it these days. I think in years gone by, you would almost have to have Trent, you'd have to have Salah. I think those days are gone where you don't have to have those players because they are expensive and because you can get cheap alternatives who can match them.
I would agree with that. I think it is slightly overrated, as you say, or overemphasized trying to cover a team. I think you're picking alternative players. It's not like you're not got a player in the position where you would have had a Salah or a Trent. You've got other players in there, and you don't need to cover a team. You just need to pick the best individual players, because how well the team performs largely doesn't matter. It's how well the specific player performs. But yeah, if I were to go for one of the Liverpool assets outside of Salah and Trent, I think for me it's Jota at the moment. It looks like a combination of good data and fairly nailed-ish, because I think Gakpo's probably the most nailed, he looks like, alongside Salah, but his data was really poor last season. And then Darwin's got exceptional data, but his minutes maybe look a little bit lower than Jota's. So I feel like Jota's maybe got that combination of both. But for me, I'll probably be avoiding Liverpool at the moment. Question number 2, we discussed this a little bit already, so we'll fly through this one. But who is the best £6.5 million midfielder for you, Wes? I assume that's Eze based on your team. But can you just discuss maybe the top 3 of Eze, Matoma, and Burmo? Is there any chance you switch them, and what do you think the value is of the 3 of them?
Yeah, so I think, like you've said, for me, Eze 6.5 million is in my team. So by default, that's got to be my number one pick as of right now, in terms of who I think's the best 6.5. But again, I wouldn't like to, even though I have Eze in my team, I wouldn't even like to put him necessarily top of the podium for the 6.5 million midfielders. I think they're all such great options. Like excluding Mbeumo, I'm not saying that I don't think he's a great option. I would like to squeeze him in as well, but there's so many midfielders this year, isn't there, that we just can't have them all. Yeah. But yeah, I think the top 3 are those ones who are the most popular, or getting spoke about a lot on Twitter. It is Mitoma, it is Mbeumo, and it is Eze for me. Yeah, I honestly don't want to sit on the fence, but I do like them all. I think Mitoma would probably be last. I suppose you got to put March in there as well. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know if you've got any Brighton in your team, but I haven't got any Brighton in my team again, so that could be a mistake. But yeah, to not sit on the fence, I'll go Eze top, Bomo second, and I'll go the Brighton mids just below them. But they're all very good assets. Again, don't let if you're watching this thinking you'll change because I've done something, don't. If you back Bomo, if you back Matoma, if you back March, go for those boys over an Eze if that's who you're backing.
Yep. I would pretty much agree with that. I would put the Brighton assets last, but the main reason for that, because I think Matoma, March, and Burmo and Eze all have similar data, similar points projections. I think the key thing for me is that Eze and Mbeumo are probably both on penalties, so that just swings it in their favour, whereas March and Matoma aren't. And I know that's only a very small part, and you might only get 1 penalty a season for those players, but if you're trying to find an edge and you think they're all equally good, I think penalties is a big swing in my favour. So it is. I would say Mbeumo, Eze, Matoma, March in that order, but yeah, I think they're all good options. Yeah. So question number 3 is around the Chelsea and City defences. We've got quite a few options at 5.5. To name the main 4, it'd be James, Chilwell, Stones and Diaz. And we've also potentially got Guardiola coming in at, we would probably expect to be 5.5, maybe 6. Yeah. You've got the option in a lot of teams. I mean, at the moment, you've got Chilwell and no City defence. So maybe you think that having Chilwell is more important than the City defence. But let's say you've got 2 in there. Do you double up on City to cover the clean sheet? Do you double up on James and Chilwell to try and cover that attacking potential? Do you think you have one of both? Like, what are you, at a £5.5 million defender, what are you valuing more there? Are you valuing that attacking potential or the clean sheets? Because if it's clean sheets, it's got to be the City defenders, really. Yeah,
absolutely. For clean sheets, those boys are definitely more likely based on last season. With Chilwell, I'm really liking his role in the team. I watched a tactical, it was a TikTok video, but it was like 7 minutes long. It was quite a long in-depth piece on Chelsea's, their tactics, how they're playing in the middle of the sort of box midfielder, and they're leaving, again, to summarise the video as best I can, they're leaving a lot of space down the left for Chilwell to essentially become a left winger rather than a left back, and he is in open play, getting forward a lot, couple that with, I believe he got an assist from a corner in pre-season.
Yep.
So he's got that in his locker. He's a bit of a streaky, and again, he can have really good streaks, can't he, in FPL in terms of, you know, getting goals, getting assists, getting clean sheets, and so can Reece James. I feel like Chilwell's maybe a little bit less injury prone than Reece James. So yeah, I've kind of almost got a bit of fear about Reece James getting injured all the time. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, and if he can get some game time, then I do really like him as well. But yeah, and again, it's not me excluding the likes of Stones. It's me trying to get that really attacking asset from a side who hopefully won't have, I guess, a rotation we don't need to worry right at the start of the season. But when Champions League hits, then the City boys could be a little bit more rotated. City often don't start seasons too well either. So yeah, it's for that attacking threat of Chilwell, what he offers, and a nice exciting pick in there. But yeah, all those options you just said I like. I think if I was going to go for a City defender, I'd probably rule out Diaz and just go for Stones. Just personal preference. Probably wouldn't go for Guardiola either because of, you know, new to the league, new to Pep. Might take a bit of time to settle in. And out of Chelsea boys, yeah, the reason I prefer Chilwell over Reece James is because at the minute in pre-season, he's getting forward more down the left, and to me feels less injury prone.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And I would just add kind of Chelsea not being in Europe this season is a massive advantage in comparison, as you say, to City. It's just you're going to see a lot less rotation as a result. And Chilwell looks fit in pre-season. It looks like he's really suited to that role, as you say. So yeah, for me, it would be Chilwell, then maybe a City defender, Stones or Diaz, and then after that, maybe Reece James. But I think all of them are excellent options. So fourth and final question is around players that are being overlooked. So Wes, just give me one or two players that you think are currently being overlooked by the majority of managers in FPL at the moment.
I think there's not as much love for March. I think I mentioned March a minute ago, which is why he's partially on my mind. But March, because of the love for the other 6.5 million midfielders, and it's almost as if people default to Mitoma as being the best 6.5 from Brighton, and therefore why consider March? Maybe a bit of bias towards, you know, he was so cheap last season and now it feels like a big price jump. But he is still a very good option, and I think he should be sort of in the conversation of the 6.5s. I'm not saying necessarily go for him, but he's definitely should be in the conversation. Then a couple of us, I remember Bowen was very popular on sort of Twitter right at the start of pre-season. He was he's getting goals, getting assists. I think maybe it's cooled a little bit recently because of West Ham not signing anyone, etc., etc. They're in Europe again, poor season last year. Someone like Bowen is, again, overlooked maybe isn't the right word. I'm not considering him for my own team personally, but he is one of those players who does have potential to come good. And then I guess the last one for me would be, again, the forwards. Again, he might become a bit more prominent now with the injuries, but with Ivan Toney out, Wissa, again, pronunciations aren't my forte. But again, like I said, in limited minutes last season, he did okay. With what you'd expect to be more minutes with Toney out, there's the potential there. And at the price point of, I think, is he 6.0, Wissa? I think he offers a decent alternative if you are sort of stacking the midfield, if you're getting the likes of a Salah into midfield, for example, and you need to save some money on a Watkins or whatever. There's a 2 million saving straight away for you to allow a more expensive midfielder, should that be the way you wish to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with any of those. I'll chuck Maddison in the ring just because I think Spurs have nice fixtures from Gameweek 3 to sort of 5 or 6. I think he's a player that I had in a lot of drafts, but I'm maybe just not considering for some reason now.
Yeah.
I also think the Spurs defenders, Pedro Porro and Udogie, I think he's pronounced, but I think they're both players that could be overlooked just due to the role that they'll play under Postecoglou. But I would agree with all of yours too. And maybe just chuck Jack Grealish in there because he's got similar data to Foden last season. He's probably more nailed than Foden, but for some reason, no one's considering Grealish. So maybe chuck him in the ring for a player that's being overlooked too. But
nice.
There we go. We've spoken about so much stuff today. We've gone through the draft, we've gone through loads of different players, formations, tips and tricks to hopefully help you in Game Week 1. If you have appreciated today's video, please do drop a like, make sure to subscribe. And like I said, I will drop Wes's Twitter down below, FPL Heisenberg on Twitter. Go follow him over there. Go show him some love. He'll tweet throughout the season with his advice, and he'll also provide some advice over on Fantasy Football Hub as well. If you do want to go and check out Fantasy Football Hub, there is a link down below to get your team rated for free and also to sign up for 50% off as well. Thank you very much for coming on the channel, Wes. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me on. Loved it, mate.
No worries at all. So until next time, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.